One of the threads throughout this NBA season has been the transparency of players and star players about issues few have spoken publicly about: anxiety and depression. In February, DeMar DeRozan of the Toronto Raptors opened up about his depression. And earlier this month, Kevin Love of the Cavaliers shared about a panic attack he had just earlier this season.
It doesn't discriminate, but in a lot of ways, young men and young boys are pretty far behind. So there's a lot of follow-ups to this. Overwhelming is a good word to use, and also I mean that in a positive way, a positive connotation. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm really glad this is out there and glad I can help.
These player testimonials arrive in tandem with news from the league office and the NBA Players Association that they are working to revamp the league's mental health policy. Here to help us understand how this mental health initiative affects NBA players is ESPN senior writer Jackie MacMullan. Jackie, what's your understanding about why so many players have spoken up about mental health in the last few months?
Well, Kate, I really think you have to give a real tip to the teams here, because I think in addition to the Players Association and the league, which both have programs for players, I think the teams have been very proactive about trying to destigmatize these issues, whether it's anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar, whatever it is. So I'm pointing to the teams and saying, they've done a good job of making their players feel comfortable about not only just talking about this, but now coming forward. That's the next step.
And what are you hearing in reaction to Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan from around the league? How are other players responding to this?
Well, I talked to Kevin right after the Players Tribune story, and I had actually talked with Kevin a little bit before his Players Tribune story about what he's been dealing with, and he said his phone was just blowing up. So many text messages, so many, all positive, not one negative one, about stepping forward. And I think you're going to see this happen more and more as, again, the word I like to use is destigmatize this issue, not just in the league, but really all through society. And I think that's one of the things the NBA will be looking at going forward is when you have an all-star, say, like Kevin Love or DeMar DeRozan, talking about this, I think you're going to see them go forward and use it in their junior NBA and some of their other programs to help educate young kids that are dealing with these similar issues. Because all these issues, they don't start in the NBA. They start much sooner than that, as we know.
Yeah, what's your understanding of precisely what these changes are from the old CBA and what was agreed upon between the NBA and the NBAPA in regards to mental health, and where they want to go with this?
Well, in the first place, they're going to appoint a mental health director, which I think is a big step forward, and they're going to take it out from the umbrella of the drug policy, which is really where this was residing in the latest collective bargaining agreement. And this isn't a knee-jerk reaction either by the union or the league to what DeMar and what Kevin Love have been saying. This is something they've been working on for well over a year, but I think there is a little more urgency now because it's in the public eye. So I think the questions I have is, how do you preserve confidentiality for the player, which I think is, when I talk to these players that are dealing with this, that's a big, big issue for some of them. And also, if they want to go outside their team or outside this director, do they have the right to do that? And, is the team, is the league, are the owners going to be okay with that? And how do the owners feel about this? Are they going to be okay with confidentiality for a player that they're paying hundreds of millions of dollars to in some situations?
Do you get the sense that we're going to hear from more players about these issues going forward?
I think so. I think that the floodgates have been open, and that's a wonderful thing. And I think that's one of the best things that DeMar and Kevin Love have experienced since they came forward, is hearing from other players that said, it's nice to know I'm not alone. So I only expect that to get better as we go forward.
And when you talk to Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, outside of just the confidentiality issue, what are their concerns in speaking openly about these issues?
Well, you know what our society's like, Kate, right? If you're different, or if you admit weakness, you're going to get some backlash. The social media world is just so unforgiving. If you have a bad game, never mind if you start talking about the fact that you suffer from depression or you had a panic attack. The thing that these players deal with, Kate, is people think, well, they're making millions of dollars. They don't have any problems. I have problems. You don't have problems. You're not allowed to have problems. You're famous. You make all this money. Everybody loves you. What problems could you possibly have? Well, these guys are human beings, and they have the same problems we do.